Hi guys, welcome to this video. So one video I have already released, which is my 3 picks for next 4 years, in which I discussed about 3 stocks: Century Extrusion, Geofinance, and Borosil Renewable. I gave a detailed about Century Extrusion and Geofinance, but not about Borosil Renewable because I feel this particular stock deserves its own attention. Okay, there is a strong fundamental change happening in this stock, and so I've decided to make a separate video dedicated for Borosil Renewable so that you get a clear understanding about what is happening in this stock. But please note that these talks discussed is only for education purpose and these are not recommendations. Now, before we go into the fundamental analysis of Borosil Renewable, let us first see technicals about it as to what has happened in this particular stock. Now, if you see this over here, this stock has already given close to 19 times, 20 times returns to investors in last 4 5 years, 3 4 years, and the peak has happened in April 2022. As you can see over here in the bottom, it has happened in 2022. Okay, April. So this is a point for us to note and remember. Now, if we go back on the financial and fundamental analysis of this company, so this was the period when the peak has actually happened in April 2022. In March 2023, their sales has been 309 crore. In March 2024, their sales dropped from 309 to 283 crore. And again in March, after 1 year, their sales has picked up. So there was a drop and again there was a rise. But if you look at the technicals of this company again, there has been a drop for a long period of time and this stock is just consolidating. The stock has not recovered to its original level where it should be, ideally a 42% upside from this particular current point that I'm drawing. Now, if you look at this profit of this company in that same time period, which was 10 crore, this profit decline shrinked directly. So this was a small drop in the overall revenue, but this profit declined by 53%. And again, the profit after a rise in sales, there is a negativity, but the negativity is at a smaller level. So that's where triggered my attention and these technicals of the chart where it is consolidating for such a long period. So almost like if we see, this is like 2021. So from November 2021 up until July, August 2025, almost 4 years, this stock has done nothing. But I see there is some turnaround happening. So let us look at this history. So for us to understand what is happening in this stock during this consolidation period in this last 4 years, we have to understand why this rise was there in this company, almost 18-20 times of this return that it has given to the investor. So for that, what I've done is I have done a analysis of this company back from 2022 till 2025 for you. So this is a very depth analysis of this particular stock, but please note it is not a recommendation. So stay tuned in this video to understand the complete journey and a complete story of this company. So back in May 2022, the company announced that it is acquiring 100% stake in an Interfloat and GmbH company. This is a European Germany based company in which they acquired it fully for the solar module manufacturing over there in Europe, because this company expected that European market would pick up and that it was picking up for the solar, but something happened later on. We will talk later on about that. Now, what this acquisition would bring, this would add an additional 300 tons per day of capacity, and that would take its capacity base to 400 TPD. That means they were earlier having 450 tons per day plus this additional 300, that would take to 750 tons per day of capacity addition to this particular company's profile. Now, again in May 2022, the 1st of February company, these are some basic details that they give as to the industry outlook. So that from 1st of February, there is an imposition of a basic customs duty on solar cells and modules that would apply from April 2022. Then there is a PLI scheme of 24,000. There is an approved list of modules and manufacturer in which this company names fall. Now, if you go further, so these were different drivers back in 2022. Okay, National Solar Mission, SECI tender, Kusum Yojana, PLI scheme, National Tariff Policy, and multiple things that this company was mentioning. Now, if we continue the story, this is an interesting point to note over there that up until 2021, okay, इसको ध्यान से सुनना, इनकी capacity जो थी that was 450 plus they made an acquisition of 300. So the capacity, final capacity would turn to 750. Okay, management ने उसके अलावा there was an ongoing expansion of 550 tons per day, and then there was an additional 1,100 tons TPD that was to be added last year. But something really happened in this company. Why the stock really gone into consolidation? If we look at their revenue also, their revenue was really growing good, 28%. to keep in mind this particular data point that their EBITDA margin back in 2022 peak जो आया था ना उसमें उनका EBITDA margin था 41 percentage. So this is a company which has the potential to make a 41 percentage EBITDA margin. Keep this information just as a note in this video and continue watching this video. You will understand the potential of this company, why it is turning around. Anti-dumping duty tha, on the Chinese. Now, Director General of Trade Remedies, they have recommended continuation of anti-dumping duties on Chinese for next 2 years from April 17th of August. Okay, but then Finance Ministry has to approve those things, and that's why they also planned because of this anti-dumping duty that is to be added for extended for another 2 years. So it was expected that this company would continue to do well. They had also proposed 1,100 TPD ka expansion plan in their solar glass furnace 4. So we are here in our story. Okay, 2022 हो चुका था, 450 existing था, 350 add किया इन्होंने और 550 का एक additional expansion ongoing था. So 550 का additional expansion on the base of initially 450. So almost 100% से भी ज्यादा ये लोग expand कर रहे थे, plus 350 acquisition के थ्रू आना था. तो it was expected, in fact, this stock, if सब कुछ correct जाता तो this stock would have given another 20x return even from that particular peak point. But let's see what happened. So we can see that history says us that this stock has given 20x return, and after that there is a large consolidation that we saw technically. और दोस्तों आपको वीडियो पसंद आ रहा है, you can watch my other videos also. If you are liking such in-depth analysis, don't forget to subscribe this channel and hit the bell icon so that the next video when I release it reaches out to you. But then there was a big negative impact in August, 18th of August 2022, where Finance Ministry decided not to extend the continuation of the anti-dumping duty for next 2 years, and it allowed the Chinese players to dump their product in the Indian economy. So there was no anti-dumping duty applicable on the solar glass imports from 18th of August 2022. So because of this, now if I show you the chart on 18th of August, what happened to this particular stock. So let us go specific to that particular date to understand what happened and when the decline came. So if we go on 18th of August 2022 over here, somewhere over here. So you can see this decline, which we are seeing of 10% in this particular stock. This happened after Finance Ministry rejected not to continue the anti-dumping duty for next 2 years. And that was the fall in this stock. And this fall thereafter continued for a very long period of time. And it is continued even up until now. Now we can see this. That's what I've highlighted over here. After that, there was a steep decline in the stock price because of the discontinuation of the anti-dumping duty. Do remember another story. Again, I'm coming back. They have acquired stake in GMB, which is an European company for solar module manufacturing over there in the European market. So in the story, we are here now. Okay, 450 existing plus 550 new addition of capacity plus 300 because of the acquisition. So they were supposed to do well really, but then because of the anti-dumping duty, now understand when Chinese players, Chinese, Vietnamese, Malaysia, from all these different players, because there is no anti-dumping duty, when they start to sell, so Indian domestic companies, what they would do, they would buy from China and sell to the local players here in China. Because of which what happens is overall selling price of the product for this Borosil Limited, इनका जो selling price है that would fall down, right? Because काफी सारा supply external market से आ रहा है Indian economy में. So because of which the company which was initially making 41-42% of EBITDA margin, their margin started decline to only 28% in the first half of 2023. Okay, margin shrink because of the removal of the anti-dumping duty. That's an important point to understand. And management was continuously mentioning these reasons also. And also second reason, see, इनको selling price के कारण selling price इनका कम हो रहा था, right? Because overall competition काफी बढ़ गया, dumping duty निकाल दिया, right? And what is anti-dumping duty? Those who guys don't know, anti-dumping duty means अगर China market से कोई supply यहाँ पे लेकर आ रहा है, so Indian government, okay, has to protect its domestic manufacturers such as Borosil Limited. So अगर ये लोग चाइना से सोलर पैनल लेकर आ रहे हैं 100 रुपीज में एग्जांपल, इंडिया गवर्नमेंट इसके ऊपर एक एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लगा देगा, लेट्स से ऑफ 50 रुपीज. तो इसका टोटल प्राइस हो जाएगा 150 रुपीज इन इंडिया टू ब्रिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट इन इंडिया. वही ये डोमेस्टिक बोरोसिल का क्या होगा, बोरोसिल जो है इनका कॉस्ट है लेट्स से 60 रुपीज, सो दे कैन इजीली सेल एट 120-130 रुपीज, एंड दैट्स वेयर द कंपनी वुड बेनिफिट. क्योंकि चाइना से माल आते आते ही 150 हो जाता है, और यहाँ पे बीइंग अ डोमेस्टिक प्लेयर they can easily sell at 120, 130 or even 149 rupees because customers will prefer them because of a price lesser than what they would import from China. But then this was reversed because of anti-dumping duty. एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी निकाल दिया, तो ये जो 50 रुपीज जो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट चार्ज कर रहा था, दिस प्राइस हैज नाउ फॉलन डाउन टू 100. सो दिस कंपनी विच वाज इनिशियली, लेट्स से इनका कॉस्ट था 60, दे कुड नॉट सेल एनीथिंग मोर देन 100 ऑल्सो. एक पॉइंट आ गया था वेर दे इवन वेंट डाउन टू 110 रुपीज फ्रॉम अ गुड अमाउंट ऑफ 139 रुपीज. वी विल सी दैट इन कमिंग स्लाइड्स. नाउ एडिशनल दूसरा चीज क्या हुआ, बिकॉज ऑफ द राइज ऑफ द कॉस्ट ऑफ द रॉ मटेरियल. सी इनका जो सोलर पैनल्स जो बनते हैं ना, दे आर, उसके जो रॉ मटेरियल्स है, दैट्स व्हाट आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम हियर, दिट्स आर वेरी कॉस्टली. Additionally, the higher cost of the energy, okay, higher packaging materials, these are all adding additional cost to the final production of the solar module. And plus there was a selling pressure from the market. Selling prices were fully being declining because of the discontinuation of the anti-dumping duty, and that's what management is mentioning. There has been a drop in the selling rates. Again and again it is mentioning, again in Q3 it was mentioning that there is a discontinuation of anti-dumping duty, steep reduction in ocean freights. This benefited domestic players. So understand, अगर let's say मैं यहाँ पे कंपनी ओन करता हूँ, ओके, और मैं चाइना से कुछ सोलर पैनल्स इंपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ, वहां पे मुझे जो ओशन फ्रेट मतलब जो चार्जेस लगते हैं टू ब्रिंग दिस सोलर पैनल्स फ्रॉम सी, शिप्स के थ्रू अगर मैं सोलर पैनल्स लेकर आ रहा हूँ, तो मुझे जो चार्जेस है वो रिड्यूस हो गए. तो उसके कारण मेरे लिए जो चाइना से मैं माल ले रहा हूँ, चाइना से जो मैं सप्लाई ले रहा हूँ, दैट इज फर्दर चीपर टू मी इन द इंडियन इकोनॉमी. आई कुड सेल इट एट अ लोअर प्राइस एंड अ कॉम्पिटेटिव प्राइस. सो वो जो प्रोडक्ट का कॉस्ट है, लेट्स से प्रोडक्ट का ओरिजिनल कॉस्ट है 100 रुपीज, प्लस सी फ्रेट जो है, लेट्स से इट वाज 50 अर्लियर, so it was 150 for me. Now the product cost is 100. Now the sea freight has decreased to 30. Now it is 130 to me. So ये जो 130 जो है ना, this is called as a landed cost in financial and accounting terms. So जो final cost जो मुझे लग रहा है, that was just 130 rupees. An example, not for this exact use case, but this is just an example of this explanation. So we are here in our story, 450 plus 350 and 550 of expansion. That is something which they have commissioned in February 2023. So we are in May 2023. 1 year later, story continues. February में ये 2023 में इनका expansion हो चुका था 550 tons per day का. So they have added 550, almost 100% on their original base of 450 plus the new acquisition of 350. Now, if we go further into the detail, we understand that because of the selling pressure. So this is where the story really continues and the journey really happens in this particular company and the stock. So if you see this here, for this particular company, the tons per day, which was adding, so they were supposed to add it at a full capacity basis in May 2023. But overall, what happened in this stock was, because of the selling pressure, their margins declined further from initial 41 to 26, 27 to 25%. But note that they were making sales. Why they were making sales? Because there was a huge demand in the market. So they were selling, but their selling price was low. But despite that, they were growing on the financial numbers, but margin was shrinking because the higher cost that they incur because of the other charges that we saw, they were not able to forward that. Also, management mentioned in the Q4 2023 annual report made that there was limited availability of domestic manufacturing capacity. This is an important point to note in Indian economy, and hence the market share of the Borosil was declined, came down to 14%. So Indian domestically, if we see in India, the availability of manufacturing capacity is very less. Okay, and majority, they will mention in the further slide also, majority of the Indian domestic requirement of solar modules was satisfied through imports. सो यू सी इस पूरे कंपनी की जो थीम है ना, दैट इज ऑल बेस्ड ऑन एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी के ऊपर. जब तक ये रिवर्स नहीं होता है, तब तक कंपनी के फाइनेंशियल्स इंप्रूव ही नहीं होंगे. इसके लिए इनकी जो सेलिंग प्राइस है, दैट वाज डिक्रीज्ड फ्रॉम 113 टू फर्दर डिक्लाइन टू some 130 rupees. That was a 1.4% decline. इन्होंने कमर्शियल प्रोडक्शन चालू कर दिया था फ्रॉम 23 February 2023. दे आर अगेन एंड अगेन मेंशनिंग दैट सेम पॉइंट, डिसकंटिन्यूएशन ऑफ एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी, डिक्लाइन इन द ओशन फ्रेट, जिसके कारण जो डोमेस्टिक कॉम्पिटिटर्स जो है, दे वर सेलिंग इट एट अ लोअर प्राइस. सो देयर हैज बीन अ स्टीप इंक्रीज इन द इनपुट कॉस्ट ग्लोबली, एनर्जी से रिलेटेड की रॉ मटेरियल. सो दे वर इनकरिंग हायर कॉस्ट एंड नॉट एबल टू फॉरवर्ड दैट कॉस्ट एज अ सेलिंग प्राइस टू द एंड कस्टमर. इंडस्ट्री आउटलुक वाज गुड. इंडस्ट्री आउटलुक बैक इन 2023 में बात करूं तो सोलार का जो शेयर था, दैट वाज 67 गीगावाट, और इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का टारगेट है टू रीच टू 280 गीगावाट बाय 2030. So there was a good potential of almost 4x growth in the solar space itself. So even now, that particular space, as of now, when I'm making this video in September 2025, it is good. फास्ट फॉरवर्ड मई 2023 में यूरोपियन कमीशन ने एक प्रपोजल लाया ऑफ नेट जीरो इंडस्ट्री एक्ट, ओके, व्हेन इट कम्स टू द एमिशन ऑफ गैसेस एंड एवरीथिंग टू गो ग्रीन. ओके, नेट जीरो इंडस्ट्री एक्ट ऑफ यूरोपियन कमीशन ने लाया. सो इट वाज गुड दैट इनका जो एक्विजिशन किया दैट शुड रियली प्ले आउट इन दिस कंपनी इन द कमिंग टाइम इन यूरोप. बट होता उल्टा है इनके साथ. तो देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है. सो Q4 में हमने देखा 2023 में revenue was growing as you can see this over here from 167 to revenue grew to 187, almost 5%. But EBITDA margin जो है that was shrinking, which was 47%, that went to 25%, that shrinked to even 12%. Okay, so you can see the company was doing well in terms of revenue, it was growing. So here also if we see the revenue margin further shrinked to 9%. एक ऐसी कंपनी जो 40% मार्जिन कंट्रोल करती थी, इनका मार्जिन हैज डिक्लाइंड टू 9.2% just because of anti-dumping duty discontinuation by the government of India. We can see this over here, but further इनका जो margin improvement जो है that started to pick up little bit from H1 FY24. Why? Because we will understand this story in a while. Okay, that's what they were selling, that their average selling prices further declined from 139 rupees to directly 139 से directly ये 110 तक गया. For this particular solar panel, there was a sharp decline of almost 21%. Again and again, management is mentioning that same thing, that the discontinuation of the anti-dumping duty against China and the dumping of from China, Vietnam, Malaysia, दिस इंटेंसिफाइड डेस्पाइट राइज इन इनपुट प्राइसेस के कारण, क्योंकि इनका मटेरियल का कॉस्ट, एनर्जी कॉस्ट सब कुछ बढ़ने के बावजूद भी ये सारी इकोनॉमी से जो सोलर पैनल्स है वो इंडिया में डंप हो रही थी इन द इंडियन इकोनॉमी. एंड बोरोसिल रियली कुड नॉट बेनिफिट बिकॉज anti-dumping duty was the main key trigger for this particular company to grow previously. And demand तो आज भी है, demand पहले भी थी. So next 3-4 years तक demand is good. Okay, overall solar polysilicon from China, जो main raw material है, ingredient है of solar panels के लिए, that dropped whooping from 303 rupees per kg to 67 RMB per kg, and now it has again picked up 87. So China के लिए जो solar panel का जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्ट था दैट डिक्लाइन. चाइना के लिए इकोनॉमी ओपन हो गई, इंडियन इकोनॉमी एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी नहीं होने के कारण. Okay, so that was the benefit for the Chinese player, where China companies really benefited because of this thing. And China added a huge capacity of Chinese across their value chain, okay, for this thing. पैरेलली स्टोरी अगर हम देखें तो यहाँ पे इंटेंसिफाइड डंपिंग हुआ फ्रॉम चाइना, वियतनाम, मलेशिया, डिस्पाइट इंक्रीज इन इनपुट टू इनपुट कॉस्ट. सो डोमेस्टिक प्लेयर्स जो इंडियन प्लेयर्स है दे वर एक्चुअली रियली बाइंग फ्रॉम चाइना इंस्टेड ऑफ बाइंग फ्रॉम कंपनीज लाइक बोरोसिल. इनका कैपेसिटी ये लोग ने जो इनिशियली प्लान किया था, so that was the main trigger for another multi-bagger return from this particular stock, because इनका इनिशियली 450 था, ओरिजिनली 550 इन्होंने किया, राइट. सो अगर मैं इसको ऐड करूँ 450 और 550, that is close to 1100 प्लस 1100 एडिशनल कैपेसिटी ऐड होने वाली थी. सो यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि अगर ये 1100 और प्लस 1100 ऐड करते तो अप्रैल में स्टॉक प्राइस जो यहाँ पे था, और ये अगर ऐड भी कर लेते नेक्स्ट 2-3 ईयर्स में, 1-2 ईयर्स में, this stock would have been same 2x 20x return even from that particular stock top. but ये नहीं हुआ because the anti-dumping duty. so मैनेजमेंट ने जो इनिशियली प्रपोज किया था उस पर्टिकुलर प्लान को कंप्लीटली होल्ड पे रख दिया. so the expansion is on hold again, they are mentioning because of absence of anti-dumping duty in this particular company, in this particular profile सेक्टर. सिमिलरली दे आर अगेन ओवरसीज सब्सिडरीज में भी अभी यहाँ पे इनका एक और एक ड्रॉबैक आता है, कंपनी को एक और एक हिट लगता है, बिकॉज इनकी जो जीएमबी एंटिटी जो यूरोपियन जर्मनी में जो एंटिटी थी, दे वर सीइंग लो डिमांड. ओके, इन द प्रीवियस क्वार्टर यूरोपियन मार्केट में ओवरऑल डिमांड इनका लो था. इनका ये लोग इनफैक्ट 57-60 करोड़ के आसपास का लॉस भी कर रहे थे फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपनी. जीएमबी कंपनी ने जो यूरोपियन कंपनी ने ऑलमोस्ट 217 करोड़ का डेट लिया फ्रॉम बोरोसिल इन इंडिया. they provided a financial support to capex because this was almost 94% stake acquire कर लिया था बोरोसिल ने इस कंपनी में. so overall stake तो acquire किया, capex भी किया, but overall market में demand नहीं है. so what do they do? okay, so net zero industry act जरूर आया था, but more action was needed on the ground. that's what it was mentioning in the local manufacturing space in the Germany. plus यूएस में जो बाइडेन ने एक प्रेसिडेंट जो बाइडेन ने 14th of May 2024 में दे हैव डबल्ड देयर इंपोर्ट टैक्स. जो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट अगर करती तो इनको अच्छा होता, बट यूएसए गवर्नमेंट ने किया, इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने पहले करके रखा था बट उसको डिसकंटिन्यू कर दिया था. देन अगेन दे स्टार्टेड टू इंपोर्ट दिस पर्टिकुलर टैक्स ऑन चाइनीज सोलर. ओके, नाउ बिकॉज ऑफ दिस क्या होता है, चाइनीज प्लेयर जिनके लिए यूएस मार्केट भी ओपन था अब तक, इनको डबल टैक्स लग गया. तो सो दे स्टार्टेड दे स्टॉप्ड सप्लाइंग टू यूएस. मतलब यूएस में तो इनका ज्यादा सेल होगा नहीं. वेयर वुड दे गो? दे वुड गो टू द नेक्स्ट बिग मार्केट विच इज यूरोप. Okay. Now, because of the Chinese supply and Vietnam and everything, because of US ने इनका import duty बढ़ा दिया, Chinese went to European market, and European market का जो overall natural demand from the home ground country जो है, that started to decline. So you understand this particular company which they acquired, which was supposed to do well actually, but it didn't do well because of this cascading effect of both. There was low demand overall, and also Mr. Joe Biden ने import tax को double कर दिया on Chinese solar panels. Again, management was expecting, but some good things started to happen. यहीं से turn around होता है company का October 2024, exactly 1 year before I make this video. Basic custom duty apply की on solar glass 10% के ऊपर. From 5th of November से एक provisional anti dumping basic custom duty कैसा होता है कि अगर मैं कुछ भी import करूं तो उस टाइम पे मेरे customs clearance, जो अगर मैं मान लो चाइना से इंडिया में import कर रहा हूं, तो सी लैंड फ्रेट जो भी वे ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट से आएगा, तो इसके लिए एक बेसिक कस्टम्स ड्यूटी इसके ऊपर लगाई जाती है. बट देन एक और एक एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी होती है जो तुम स्पेसिफिक प्रोडक्ट स्पेसिफिक लगाएंगे ऑन टॉप ऑफ दिस बेसिक कस्टम ड्यूटी. तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स ने 5th of November 2024 को ये रिकमेंडेशन दे दिया कि एक एंटी ड्यूटी डंपिंग हम इस पे लगाएंगे. बट देन ये मैटर जो है वो फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर के पास था. जब तक वो लोग इसको अप्रूव नहीं करते तब तक इट इज नॉट कंफर्म्ड. दैट वाज द स्टोरी. जर्मनी एंड फ्रांस, जहां पे इन्होंने जीएमबी को एक्वायर किया था, ओके 94% स्टेक लिया था, उसमें 217 करोड़ का कैपेक्स किया था. इस कंपनी में भी देवर दी मोस्ट, these two countries are the most happening countries where the maximum manufacturing happens, but there was lack of demand overall, so and that company was actually making loss of 57-60 crore too. Again, the story remains same, that this particular they had proposed this thing, but this was on hold. So that's where the main revenue trigger and the growth would come for this company when this expansion happens. So this expansion is currently on hold, and decision will be taken after imposing of anti-dumping duty. So अभी हम story में कहाँ पे? It is waiting with Ministry of Finance to approve that particular anti-dumping duty. Let us see further what happens. So you can see their EBITDA margin fell sharply to 5.5% from 42% of EBITDA margin company. They were once at that level. Again, they are mentioning that same thing, because of low selling prices that they have to forcefully sell to the local players here in India. Now, on 4th of December, this is the best thing happened. On 4th of December last year, Ministry of Finance has have imposed this anti-dumping duty on these things, and which was a recommendation, and this thing, this discussion was done, and they have imposed this provisional, but this was not final, this was a provisional anti-dumping duty on texture tempered coated, okay, for a definitive period of next 5 years. That means 2024 से 2029 तक ये anti-dumping रहेगी, but ये एक provisional approval दे दिया था. There was still due diligence may be required from the finance minister, which they would do in a while. This was expected. So once this particular provisional was done, you can see this. I'll show you in the later part, maybe in some slide, but we will come back. Wait, I will show this to you. Where is the particular section? Where I think here only, definitive duties. Yes, this was the case. Yes, you can see this over here. The Ministry of Finance had issued notification of 8th of May. आगे जाकर स्टोरी इनकी दिसंबर 2024 में प्रोविजनल दे दी थी, बट फाइनली 8 of May 2025 में कंपनी के पास कंफर्मेशन आया दैट मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस हैज इशूड अ नोटिफिकेशन ऑन 8 of May, accepting the recommendation and imposed anti-dumping duty for 5 years. Okay, this is where the turnaround started to happen, where जो anti-dumping duty absence थी from this particular sector, for this particular company, this started to come along. Let us go back in our story quickly and see what has happened. So जैसे ही एक provisioning आया of anti-dumping duty December 2024 में, company started to raise funds. Raise funds for what? Raise funds for that expansion of 110 TPD, 1110 TPD, which they wanted to do, which we saw in the previous slides. Now, company ने initially rights issue किया था. Now understand this dynamics of business. Rights issue किसके लिए होता है? Rights issue common shareholders के लिए होता है, आप और मैं जैसे retail investor है. But company ultimately moved to preferential issue, raising capital only from selective set of investor. So for this promoter themselves have infused 100 crore, but 597 crore almost इनको raise करना था. तो इन्होंने 530 crore का warrant issue किया था, which was good thing. और इस warrant के against almost 104 crore was raised. But then what they are mentioning is an amount worth of 417 crore, while the balance choose not to pay despite their application. This is an important point to note. Why they are not paying? Because understand, what this company is going to make use of this money. So this almost close to 697 which the crore that they will use, they will pay 185 crore debt that they have raised for the GMB entity which is there in Europe. Okay, so why would I, as an also as an investor or a big institutional fund, give you 100 crore to this particular company to pay out the debt for that particular company? ये लोग कैपेक्स करने वाले थे, अग्रीड है, खुद का डेट पे करेंगे, अग्रीड है, इंटरनल बिजनेस ऑपरेशंस के लिए यूज करेंगे, अग्रीड है, बट मैं 185 करोड़ क्यों दूं? सो इट मेक्स क्लियर सेंस फॉर द investors not to really proceed with this particular warrants for which the company was raising money. So this was clear. Okay, so during this 6 months, so याद रखना दिसंबर 2024 में एक प्रोविजनल एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी साइन की थी जिसकी फाइनली मई में आनी है. We are somewhere in between over here. Okay, so September 2024 में company is mentioning some details that they have incurred a loss. Okay, almost 9 crore का इनका year on year month on year loss ये लोग expenses bear कर रहे थे. So reason for cool down was that due to the decline in the demand of this photovoltaic modules for large modules. Okay, so it was clear that this particular company of GMB was not really profitable. So the question again comes back, why should I pay money to this particular company in order to pay the debt of the company where there is no demand, and USA का already double duty लगी हुई है, so there is no point, right? Expansion plan was ongoing. So earlier it was proposed of 110 1100 tons TPD, but initially they again changed the plan to 500 TPD, which again they changed it later on to 600 TPD, which I will talk. Okay, ये February में किया. दिसंबर में प्रोविजनल एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लगाई थी, फाइनल अप्रूवल पेंडिंग था. फरवरी में मैनेजमेंट ने डिसाइडेड दैट दे वुड गो विद एन एक्सपेंशन ऑफ 500 टीपीडी. सो फर्नेस इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू बी कमीशन इन जुलाई टू सितंबर नेक्स्ट ईयर 2026 के जुलाई सितंबर इस पर्टिकुलर मतलब Q2 2026 में, दैट इज द पीरियड वेयर द कंपनीज न्यू एडिशन ऑफ 500 टीपीडी वुड कम अलोंग इनटू देयर particular business, so for which they would be raising 675 crore. ये February में दिया, but then the investors were not really willing to pay. We will continue the story, guys. आपको ये वीडियो यहाँ तक पसंद आया तो do let me know in the comment how are you finding this video. What do you will you prefer to buy or not? Again, this is not a recommendation. But what would be your preference? What are the 3 points that you liked in this particular video that you're watching of this particular company? So do let me know in the comments below. This is going to be a lengthy video, I know, but it will be worth for investing and consideration for your own personal view. Again, this particular capacity was put on hold. So initially, after the provisional anti-dumping duty, they planned for 500 TPD. Though, so this has been reactivated immediately upon imposition of anti-dumping duty on import of solar glass. That's what management is saying over here. So, but also remember that this 550 tons per day of additional capacity which they added, that was live in February 2023 only. But understand, इसमें से जो इनका जो revenue potential maximum जो आना था, that was not possible because they were not able to sell at a higher price. Okay, why they were not able to sell at a higher price? Because there is no anti-dumping duty. So अगर अभी anti-dumping duty आ रही है फिर से in the economy, so this 550 tons per day which was added to their existing 450, it should really add more value because of the higher selling price going further. So that is the first optionality where the investment returns would come in if the company really does well and the sale continues. Again, there was a year-on-year change in the revenue where the revenue grow, okay, and their EBITDA margin started to improve. It fell down to almost like we saw, right, 5, 6 or 12% of the EBITDA margin. Now, if we go further, their ex-factory selling price has increased from 110 rupees to 113 rupees. So again, that's what it is saying, that the prices started to look up gradually for the company after the provisional anti-dumping duty. The selling price for the quarter was this thing, okay, and compared to what it was earlier from 99 से directly for this particular Q4 2024, मतलब अभी ये 2025, मतलब ये Jan, Feb and March of 2025, the selling price jumped from almost 100 rupees to 125, 127 rupees. So you can see the power of anti-dumping duty in this particular sector and for this particular company. That's where the news came, where on 8th of May, government has Ministry of Finance approved the continuation of the anti-dumping duty for the next 5 years. अभी ऐसे नहीं कि announce करके government will revert back. Government is there, it will continue, and it will also the recommendation was to import a definite countervailing duty. ये एक और एक duty for next 5 years on Vietnam and the import from the other market, but which is waiting for government action. But the major trigger of anti-dumping duty from the government, which was clear. So anti-dumping duty फिर से आ गई है on this particular company. we can see that Q1 2026 ये April May June के period में they are mentioning that their ex factory selling price again jumped, which was 99 to 127 to 138. So you see, this is where the margin unlock will happen for this company over a period of time. Again, because of that same factor of ADD. Again, here there is an important announcement. You have to understand the company, when company previously was raising 670 crore approximately, they were not able to raise it fully because we understood 185 crore was going as a debt to that particular European company, GMB. Okay. So why would investor pay for this money to the economy where there is no demand, right? So meanwhile, what happened was the company understood why they are not able to raise money, and the company decided that the director general of the GMB company over there in Europe, which is costing like euro 9,000 every month, that was a big amount for them. They decided to file for an insolvency application. So उसको liquidate करने का decide किया उस particular company को in Germany. Okay, that's where this particular liquidation application came, because there was no demand in the Europe, and one time provisioning of 325 crore का जो था वो उन्होंने एक loss अपने account में already consider कर दिया, and there was a continued loss of almost 8 to 9 crore because of this acquisition. So एक तो कंपनी के साथ एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी 2022 में डिक्लाइन होना चालू हो गया, प्लस इनका जीएमबी जो कि यूरोपियन मार्केट का जो डिमांड था इनको आना था वो भी डिक्लाइन होना चालू हो गया. बट अभी 2025 में एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लगा दिया है, प्लस GMB acquisition, GMB has been completely liquidated. So this was the negative hitch to this financials of the company that has gone out now. Now we have only anti-dumping duty playing out in this company, and that was the main trigger for this particular stock to go further. Now, if you look for a strategic growth engine as well, here also they are mentioning that same point: 5% anti-dumping duty on Chinese and Vietnam import. Okay, this was also finalized, which is a good thing. So there was a big gap, demand and supply gap. Import 75% now. Here is an important data point. So huge supply gap. India mein imports are almost 75% of the demand. So this clearly tells us that domestically in India itself there is a huge demand. Again, this I'm drawing from Q1 2026. Okay, so we are just there like 4 or 5 months back ka ye PPT hai, where 75% of the demand jo hai, that is coming from external supply, which is from China. That's where company decided not to go with 500, but initially 100 and 1100 ka tha. Company decided to go with 500 ton TPD ka expansion. Then they decided to go with 600 TPD ka expansion because of this demand that they would plan for. And now company wanted to raise money of 950 crore of capex, which was initially 650 crore, and they were able to successfully even raise that too. So we'll see that in the following section. Now, if you see this, their revised expansion plan from 1,500 to 500, 500 to 600, investment almost 950 crore ka tha. Commissioning target hai December 2000, exactly 12 to 14 months from now. I'm shooting this video in September 2025. Okay, where we have got still another 12 to 15 months, but understand it's not that only after 12 to 15 months the company, in my view, the stock would really improve in its return. But because of the anti-dumping duty, their existing 450 था plus 500 and 550 के करीब, right? So 550 के करीब इन्होंने एक और एक expansion plan किया था. This particular 550 expansion plan and this 450, जिसके कारण decline in the sales price, so sales price का increase definitely we will see, and that will impact on the revenue and the margin as well. Okay, so we are with current capacity full utilizations, we have some increased sales, but there will be high OPEX cost. Yes, this is something which I will explain to you that after this particular commissioning of this plant, generally plant commission karte to immediately plant doesn't contribute to the revenue top line immediately in 1 month. So 3-4 months में एक OPEX का cost जाता है, तो gradually किसी भी plant, किसी भी ये business का standard dynamics है, that they will really add to the value. So again, preferential issue raise किया, 517 crore का 100 crore promoter ने raise किए, investors ने raise किए, and you can see investors ने warrants raise किए at 530 rupees. So 530 becomes a psychological barrier of this particular stock. So a sum total of 104 crore was received. So you can see earlier they were facing challenges, but now they got their money. This hints that investors' interest in this particular company, that the investor were successfully able to give the money. So their constant current status of preferential issue June 2019 में government ने already इनको approve कर दिया, and the balance payment जो है, that is something to be received. So company expansion now is kicked in. This is as of February 2021. You can see this promoter has infused. Again, just to show you some correlation, when in February before GMB liquidation का decision किया, फरवरी और अभी के करंट पीरियड में इसके बीच में द बैलेंस वाज नॉट चूज टू पे फॉर their application. This is an important because investors were not playing. We understood because 185 crore company was willing to pay debt, so company had to pay for this debt from their own money. After that, investor gave them the money, and the current status is that they have got this 100 crore, and balance of this 417 crore is supposed to be coming again. This is just a status. Again, I'm repeating this over here, but this is what it was. This is also as of May 2025 है. In fact, ये मैंने पॉइंट यहाँ पे हाईलाइट किया है. दिसंबर 2024 में एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी आने के बावजूद they were not able to raise the money in 2025 because of the GMB acquisition, which was going incorrect. So final update आया, okay, of this thing. So they were successfully able to raise the money, okay, of close to 517 crore, 100 crore coming from the promoter over here. नॉन प्रोमोटर्स ने 417 करोड़ इन्फ्यूज किया, ओके, विच इज समथिंग टू बी कन्वर्टेड एज अ वारंट्स. सो वारंट्स किसी भी कंपनी में आता है, इट इज अ गुड पॉइंट एंड अ गुड ट्रिगर टू अंडरस्टैंड बिकॉज वारंट्स लॉक द प्राइस of all the shares. So अगर जाकर let's say this 530, again not a recommendation, let's say this cost stock goes to 5 from 530 rupees to say 1100 rupees, but the company and the investors who have put and have opted for this particular warrant at an initial price of 530, they will still get this after 18 months at 530 only. So warrants is a good thing coming into any particular company. And they issued, in fact, not only that, there were additional warrants issued of close to 397 crore. Okay, इनको 950 crore के आसपास कुछ रेस करना था, right? So ये रेस किया. इसके अलावा एक और एक वारंट इशू किया. So earlier when the company was not able to even raise 417 crore, investors were backing out. Now it raised that 100. It raised that 417. It also raised that 397 crore. So this shows the confidence of the investor in this company because of the imposition of anti-dumping duty. All right, so now let us go back on the technicals and we can see this exactly what is happening on this particular stock so that you get a full clarity. So I will take a daily view to really understand the price action of this particular company. As you can see this over here, this stock has started to form one particular trend and of higher highs and higher lows over here. So I've made some point where there would be some signals indicating the falls. This could be like a false breakout and stock has uptick. And you can see this over here. So if I ask you how much time it took for the company to come from this point to this point, these are like how many, like just 13 candles, 13 day. But look at the same price point where the company took so long of its own time to correct. So stock ने almost 21 days लिया. So we can see that the stock price is weaker over here because there are people buying and people willing to hold relative to this point and relative to many other points also. Also on the technicals part, one who understands the technicals and formations and everything, you can see stock was taking a good support over here, and after breakout stock is taking a good support at this point. So this is like a false breakdown. After that there is a big volume with which the buying has come, and now it is just a small time correction which is happening, same as some other companies that we have seen previously. I hope guys you have liked this video. Do let me know in the comment below and do subscribe to the channel. I'm sorry this is a long video, but I think this company deserves its own attention as a full dedicated specific video. That's why I've decided to make a specific video for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye guys.